It was exactly 2:47 a.m. The rain was pouring so heavily that the road ahead was barely visible. Thunder echoed across the sky as flashes of lightning lit up the empty highway for just a split second before everything disappeared back into darkness. On that lonely road, a man named Hamza was driving home alone. He had been on the road for hours, exhausted and ready to reach home. The only sounds inside the car were the rain hitting the windshield and the steady hum of the engine. Then suddenly, his GPS screen began to flicker. The map disappeared. Instead, 2 words appeared on the screen. Turn back. Hamza frowned. Must be another software glitch, he whispered. He ignored the warning and kept driving. A few moments later, the engine began to lose power. The headlights flickered. The speed dropped. No matter how hard he pressed the accelerator, the car refused to move any faster. It felt as if something unseen was trying to stop him. Then, through the thick fog, he saw it. An old hotel standing alone in the middle of nowhere. A faded neon sign flickered above the entrance. Black Moon Inn. It looked abandoned. No cars, no lights except one weak glow from inside. No signs of life. With no other choice, Hamza grabbed his backpack and walked toward the entrance. The old wooden door slowly opened by itself. Inside the lobby, an elderly receptionist sat perfectly still behind a dusty wooden desk. He looked up, smiled, and quietly said, "I've been expecting you." Hamza forced a nervous laugh. "I just need a room for the night." Without asking for his name, without checking any records. The old man reached beneath the counter and placed a rusty key on the desk. The number engraved on it was 13. As Hamza picked it up, an icy chill ran through his entire body. The receptionist leaned forward. "Whatever happens tonight, never open the door after 3 o'clock. Hamza smiled again. He assumed it was nothing more than an old man's attempt to scare travelers. He walked upstairs. Every wooden step creaked beneath his feet. The hallway was long, silent, and almost completely dark. Only one light bulb flickered near the ceiling. At the very end of the corridor stood room number 13. The key turned by itself. The door slowly opened. A freezing gust of air rushed out. Inside, the room looked untouched for decades. Dust covered every piece of furniture. Yet strangely, the bed looked perfectly clean, as if someone had been sleeping there every single night. Hamza locked the door behind him. Across the room stood a large antique mirror, covered with an old white cloth. He ignored it. Outside, the storm continued. Then he noticed an old clock hanging on the wall. It read 2:59 a.m. The second hand moved, tick, 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 and then 3 loud chimes echoed through the hotel. The storm outside suddenly stopped. Complete silence filled the room. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks echoed from the other side of the door. Hamza froze. Who could possibly be outside? The hotel had seemed completely empty. A soft female voice whispered, "Hamza, open the door." His heart nearly stopped. It was his mother's voice, but that was impossible. His mother had died 5 years earlier. The voice came again. "Please, let me in." Tears filled Hamza's eyes. For a brief moment, he almost reached for the door. Then he remembered the receptionist's warning. Never open the door after 3. The knocking became louder, harder, more desperate. Thud, thud, thud. Hamza slowly looked beneath the door. A pair of feet stood outside, but something was horribly wrong. The feet were facing backward. A cold wave of terror rushed through his body. He stepped back. Suddenly, the white cloth covering the mirror began to move. At first, very slowly, then it slipped onto the floor by itself. Hamza stared into the mirror. Everything looked normal. He raised his hand. The reflection copied him. He smiled nervously. The reflection smiled too. Then he lowered his hand. But the reflection didn't. It kept its hand raised, still smiling. Hamza's breathing became heavier. He rubbed his eyes. When he looked again, the reflection was no longer copying him. It was moving on its own, step by step. It walked closer from inside the mirror. At the same moment, violent pounding shook the hotel room door. The female voice screamed, "Hamza! Open the door!" He turned toward the door for only 1 second. When he looked back, the reflection had disappeared. The mirror was empty. Slowly. The surface of the glass began to ripple like black water. Then, a burned black hand emerged from inside the mirror, long claws, rotting skin, a freezing touch. Hamza ran toward the door. He pulled it open. The hallway was empty. Almost at the far end stood a